Hi, I'm Zoe Lundgren at Scandinotions, and you found my tutorial on how to make Scandinavian hanging heart bags. There's no sewing involved and they're super simple to make. Traditionally made from paper, you can make them from any fabric that has a non-fraying edge after they've been cut into. So here's some that I made in vinyl. And here is one that I made in vinyl and washable paper. And today we're going to be using cork fabric. So to get started, we've got 2 pieces of cork, 2 different colours, 5.5 by 8 inches or 13 by 21 centimetres. And cutting equipment, we've got cutting mat and a craft knife, which you don't need to have. If you don't have those, scissors, and I'll show you how to use both of them as we go along. We've got an awl. Well, I use an awl. It's super sharp and has a graduated stem here, but you can use, for what we need it for today, a safety pin or dressing pin, just something to poke a hole in your paper pieces, a ruler, a marking tool, which I would advise that you test on a piece of scrap first, just to make sure that it doesn't leave any nasty stains or residue behind after you've erased it. I've got paper clips here because if you use wonder clips, we're not going to use them for very much in this pattern, but we are going to use them for a long time on our fabric. So these divots, these little dimple things here, they're going to leave divots in the fabric. If your fabric holds them and won't let them go, you will be better off using something like paper clips. And of course, you're going to need your pattern pieces. So if you use the link in the description below, go over to my website, get the pattern, it's absolutely free, print it off and come back and I'll show you how to prepare the pieces. Okay, with our pattern pieces printed out, first thing we need to do is check this gauge square, either one of them, one's in inches, 1 centimetres. I'm going to use my inch ruler and I can see that that is exactly 1 inch square, so we are good to go with these pieces. While I'm cutting out these pattern pieces, I would love it if you would just hit the subscribe button. I really want to make more of these videos for you and tutorials, but in order to do that I need that support, and subscribing to my channel is the very best way you can show that. So we have one more thing to do to prepare these pieces. However, I'm going to transfer this outside shape onto my fabric first, because if we start cutting into this pattern piece, which we do need to do, it's going to make these pattern pieces very flimsy, and in order to get a really nice accurate shape, it's best to not have them moving around on the fabric whilst we're trying to draw around them. Bringing in the fabric pieces, nice pieces of cork here. I've got mine clipped in a roll because they're stored rolled in the opposite direction and it gets very curly, so I've just tried to do it, manipulate it to go the opposite way to lay flatter. The layout that is best to use is like this. Okay, something like that. So let's get marking around them. Then what we're going to do are poke holes on the 2 dots on the small size and the 6 dots on the large size. And you just need to make these big enough to fit your marking tool through. Don't have to go crazy with them. There we go. Now we're going to transfer them onto our fabric pieces. Now the best order to do this in is to, again, like we did with the paper pieces, cut out around the edges of your pieces before you start making any kind of cuts inside the pattern piece. That will make it way too flimsy to get a really accurate, nice cut when you're trying to manoeuvre your scissors around here. I just want to jump in here and say that personally I'm not a great big fan of the cutting board and craft knife for going around the outline of things like this. So I'm always on the lookout for ways to increase my accuracy when I use scissors for cutting out things like this. So if you've got any tips or hints or tricks that can make it easier, better, more precise, please, I'd love to hear a comment from you in the comments below, because it's always nice to have these things as neat as possible. The very next thing we're going to do is make some slits. You can see here I've already put a couple in. We're joining the dots that you've made at the top and the bottom of the pieces together and making a slit in between. You can do this using a ruler and a craft knife, like I did with this one, or you can use marking tools if you don't have a craft knife and cut along it with scissors. I'll show you how to do that now. So we'll just make a line between the last two dots on this pattern piece. Fold the piece in half. Make sure it is quite accurate because we want these nice and straight. And then cut all the way up to the dot. Simple as that. And repeat with this one. And now I'm going to do it all over again with the red piece. If you can't remember how I did it, just rewind, follow the instructions for the white piece that we did. It's exactly the same for this one. These are your pattern pieces. It's important to say that when you prepare the second colour, you don't need to cut out the handles because each bag only has one handle, and I've done this here in white. No need to cut out another set in the second colour. And this is finally the part where the magic happens, and I'm going to show you a method of weaving that means we're left with a 3D fabric which we can use as an openable, functional bag. With all our pieces cut out and prepared, we're going to start now with the large size, so we can just put the handle aside and the small pieces. Okay, I'm just going to bring in a couple of clips now because they might come in useful for this next bit. We're just going to fold each of these pattern pieces in half with the wrong sides together. And we're going to weave. Now, traditionally, you might think, I'll use this piece as an example. You go over and under, and that will give you a nice woven texture, woven textile. But as you can see, if we look inside, that doesn't open up like a bag or anything resembling one. So this method, you actually use the loops rather than just a flat piece to weave with. And we are going to pass the red through the white. Then we're going to pass the white through the red, just using this one the whole time. And then we'll place the white one around the red. Take your time with this, rewind me if you need to. And then we want the red on the top, so we put the white through the red. And you can see here, just give a sneak peek, that is open. So to do the rest, we simply leave that one where it is. Start with the next loop. We're just going to work down these loops. So the second loop will be with the red over the top of the white, because we had the white over the top of the red for beginning the last one. Trying to hold it in place as best as you can as we go along. Okay, you see how we're going. Now we want to pass the white through the red, and then the red through the white. It can be a little tricky when you get to the end pieces, and in fact it gets very tricky when you get to the very last pieces. So as we go along, it's a good idea to move these up as far as you can so that they're sitting nice and snugly into the ends of the cuts. Alright, so now we need to pass the red through the white. And the white through the red. And the red through the white. The white through the red. Again, just make sure that you're tucking these up as far as they'll go comfortably. Also check the back. Alright, now we're coming on to the last part. This is the tricky part because it gets very tight. So here we're going to need to pass the white through the red. These are traditionally made in paper, which can be quite tricky because by the time you get to this bit, the paper really wants to tear. So it's actually quite lovely to make it in vinyl or something similar. Okay, now we need to pass the red through the white and the white through the red. Trickier and trickier. And the red through the white. Making sure not to unravel that one too much from the previous row. And there we have it. There is no need to secure these ends if you really don't want to. You might want to put a dab of glue in there if it's really bothering you, particularly at this one here where we're going to magically now open up our bag. How about that? So these bits here you might want to just put a dab of glue and clip that together in place like that until it's dried. But that's really your bag woven. All we need to do now is to attach our hanger. For this I'm going to use a glue that isn't a fabric glue. It's more of a super glue. Glue onto the right side of your cork or vinyl, whichever fabric you're using. Put that in place. I am going to move on to making the small size and show you that one just because it's slightly different with the weaving technique in that we do the beginning and the end parts rather than everything in between because it's so much smaller, but it's that much quicker to make. And just pop the clips on to hold it in place, make sure everything's nice and straight in how you want it. So while I'm showing you the small size, if you hit the notification bell, YouTube is going to let you know anytime that I release a video or a tutorial, something that you will like and that you want to keep up to date with. And as you can see here, we immediately hit quite a tricky bit because we're both at the beginning and the end of this small heart. There you go, the first one's done already and we've only got this one to go. So the white, I beg your pardon, was passed through the red. So now we need to pass the red through the white. There we go. And then the white into the red. And we have already got to the end of our heart, small sized. There we go, remove the clips, just check that you've got the bag that opens. As I say, put a couple of drips of glue there if you want to, and we'll just put our glue on the right side of the fabric as we did for the large one. Put those into place, adjust them to be in the centre if you need to. Don't forget to check the back. Oops, that one came away a little bit. Perfect. And there we have our 2 different sizes of Scandinavian hanging heart bags. I am proudly British and Swedish. However, I'm a lot more culturally British than I am Scandinavian. And I love this tradition, this Scandinavian tradition. I love the hearts everywhere, particularly in Christmas. However, being very British, I can see these being used at other times of the year. And I've made a couple here in a lightweight cardstock, heavyweight paper stock kind of thing. And you can see that they do look beautiful, even when they're not in traditional Christmas colours. And I think that they would make beautiful thank you gifts, teacher gifts, even door hangers. They could be used in closets as pomanders, air fresheners, room fresheners. And I'd love to hear in the comments below, what do you plan to use yours for? Christmas or something else? But remember, however you choose to use yours, please have a lot of fun making them. Like my video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give me the opportunity to bring you a lot more of these sewing, bag making, crafting projects.